favoritism, abuse of power, and obstruction of the legal process. They are all part of accusations once leveled against a former Minnesota sheriff.
The FBI looked at the accusations, but didn't charge the man, who was still employed by the sheriff's department. Fox 9 investigator Trish Van Pilsum opened up the case files and discovered some new details.
This is a story about small-town favors and small-town fear. To hear folks around here tell it, the lives of the powerful are tightly woven.
It is like a yarn ball.
Which is fitting in a way, given the landmark that resides within the Meeker County lines. But just try to unravel what goes on in a place like this. When the FBI did a few years back, it produced hundreds of pages of statements and reports and not a single criminal charge. But a veteran federal agent would make a point of writing in his federal summary that this investigation was hindered by, quote, a pervasive sense of fear among both private citizens and public officials in Meeker County, many of whom believe that cooperation with this investigation will result in retribution. And that says something about a county.
Do you think that's true?
Stephanie Beckman is the Meeker County attorney.
I don't know if that's true or not. I have never seen that document. If it is true, that is completely, absolutely not to be tolerated. That's what I can say about it.
The FBI file, requested by the Fox 9 investigators under the Freedom of Information Act, is filled with the stories of people who say it's gone on for years.
And it's still to this day.
Jill Swisher's story began 2 decades ago.
Why would you want to work for corruption? It's sad.
What happened to her pulled at the weeds because it went public.
So some of their dirty laundry came out, you know.
She dated one of the town bankers. He was charged with assaulting her.
I thought I was going to die.
Then arrested for violating a protection order.
I didn't have a lot of strength anymore.
Press reports from the time cite records from a civil suit. They allege the banker, who was a friend of then-Sheriff Mike Herman, was released from jail so he could get bail money. These are jail records obtained by the Fox 9 investigators. A former jailer claimed someone altered the jail records to make it appear as though the court had ordered his release rather than someone from the sheriff's office. In a written statement to the Fox 9 investigators, former Sheriff Herman said no one altered jail records.
I would get a call from the advocate saying he's let out, so be careful. You know.
Former Sheriff Herman took heat for something else at the time, giving a fellow county fair board member who'd been charged with sexually assaulting 2 girls and a woman a week to turn himself in. And even then, critics claimed the accused didn't have to spend time in a jail cell while awaiting release on bail. Herman insists he showed neither man favoritism. The FBI looked at other problems at the jail, too, like the time in February 2006 when, according to the FBI report, a jailer was alleged to have gotten caught having sex with a female inmate. And yet when the Fox 9 investigators checked the jailer's personnel records, we learned the probationary employee was allowed to resign. The internal complaint says he had an inappropriate relationship with an inmate.
I should have known about that incident.
The county attorney says she never got the case.
I'm not aware of any deputy who had sex with a jail inmate.
Okay. Do you remember when...
That would be completely inappropriate, and it should be followed up on.
This form, explaining what happened, went to the State Department of Corrections, which licenses jails, but not for nearly 3 months. And it said only that the jailer and the inmate had been passing inappropriate notes. The DOC was told immediately about another serious problem at the jail.
And then did you know about the episode in which male inmates were able to remove bricks from the wall and crawl into the women's area and have sex with the female inmates?
I eventually find out about that.
Here's how it happened, according to the Sheriff Department's own investigation. An inmate used the metal end of a pencil to scrape out the mortar around a concrete block. Once the block was removed, he crawled into a woman's cell and had sex with a female inmate. The Sheriff's Office did its own investigation and patched the wall. The inmate was not charged with any new crimes. Mike Herman writes, both incidents were fully investigated and reported to proper authorities. Now, he was sheriff back when those things happened.
Just have one item on the agenda here.
When Jeff Norland took over as sheriff, he made Mike Herman jail administrator. But before Mike Herman stepped down from the sheriff's job, Folks used to see him driving around town on personal business in his sheriff's vehicle. That according to the FBI file.
You saw that yourself.
Saw that.
Herman says he had to because he was on call 24/7.
It's also known fact that Mike Herman would go down to the Eagles, down to the Legion with his squad car, and he would drink and he would drive. And I think, all of us, I think, if you witnessed that too, no,
Years.
that's been years. And their excuse is because he's always on call 24 hours a day.
Herman says he never broke a drinking and driving law in his own or a sheriff's vehicle, but did not say whether he has ever driven the county car after having any alcohol at all. An outside prosecutor who reviewed the FBI file said the state would not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the former sheriff had ever driven while intoxicated. Then there is the former sheriff's neighbor. He wrote a letter to the editor complaining about Herman's using the work car outside of work. The neighbor snapped some Polaroids when he saw Herman getting ready to tow a relative's SUV with the sheriff's vehicle.
He says, it looks like you're using county vehicle for personal use. He says, anything wrong with helping a citizen? I says, well, that depends on who the citizen is.
He sent the pictures to the county attorney. These are copies. The originals went to the FBI. You can see the sheriff's vehicle and you can see the SUV, which according to the county attorney's notes is a Ford Expedition. But when the FBI asked Herman about the neighbor's report, Herman told the agent it was a FEMA trailer he let the feds keep on his land. It's unclear whether the FBI ever looked at the pictures to confirm whether Herman was telling the truth.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
The former sheriff didn't want to talk on camera about this. In a letter, he told us he was never dishonest with the FBI on any occasion. The most serious allegation the FBI investigated was obstruction of the legal process. One case it looked at was a 911 call that came from Herman's house in 2006. Then Sheriff Herman's son made the call. He said 6 guys had just left his house in a car after some kind of disturbance. A deputy named Reggie Sandstrom spotted the car, stopped the boys, and wrote 4 of them tickets for underage drinking. It's all written up in Deputy Sandstrom's original report. But Deputy Sandstrom wrote a second report. This one leaves out any reference to the fact the kids had been drinking. Why? The FBI investigated allegations then Sheriff Herman didn't want the boys cited for underage drinking. Remember, they'd come from his house.
I just don't want to be rude.
The sheriff now says he didn't influence how the report was written.
Do you remember telling a Litchfield police officer that you...
Deputy Sandstrom wouldn't talk with us. He told an FBI agent no one ordered or suggested he change his report, but an officer who worked with him at the time told the FBI and the Fox 9 investigators he did what he had to do because he had a mortgage to pay. There's one more thing. The incident report itself lists the complainant's name as anonymous, even though his name appears elsewhere in the report. But that anonymous designation makes the whole case harder to find should someone from the public go looking for it. An outside prosecutor said there was no evidence Herman acted to intentionally obstruct, hinder, or prevent any legal process.
If there's evidence to establish what you're telling me, I'm very concerned for the citizens of Meeker County.
In the end, a veteran FBI agent wrote in his final summary that he never found a smoking gun, but believed that when taken all together, the actions of the Meeker County Sheriff's Office worked to